Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Naist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Naist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiest Podcast, coming to you again today with another special and amazing guest. I have Helen with me today, but what I like to do, Helen, is have you introduce yourself to my audience, like who you are, what it is you do, and then you and I are going to rock and roll, as I like to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on today. I know you do. This is a lot of work putting these shows on again and again and again, and you really do a great job. So who am I? I'm Helen Malinowski. I am a therapist. I'm a trauma therapist, and I specialize in clinician burnout. I have a group practice that is a 7-figure group practice, and I have an organization called the Somatic Integration Institute, where I coach and teach and train and try to keep clinicians feeling fulfilled and sustained in the work that they're called to do without burning out. So that's who I am.
You know what? I love it. And, I always say that, for me, God is always on time, right? Excuse me. The reason being is I've been in the addiction field for 16 years. And some people ask me, like, Max, how come you haven't burned out? I don't know. I make sure I take care of myself, right? And make sure that my priorities in order. And, especially in what I do, I always like to say I keep my recovery and my practice separate. Right? Like, because me going to the office or to the house or wherever every day is not my recovery. Even though I can become very fulfilled from the work I do, right? And the people I try to help. But like, as you know, if you doing what you do, you probably come across people in addiction, right? They say the addiction stems from trauma. And I'm sure you've worked and when you hear that stuff day in, day out, there's days you do wake up and you're like, okay, how am I going to do this today? So let's get into that. Like, let's talk first before we talk about like how you help clinicians stay out of burnout. Let's talk about your challenges that you have faced that got you into the field, right? Because all of us helpers, I like to say, any of like you, especially therapists, right? And people that do what you do are big time helpers, right? Have gone through their own, I like to say, challenges. If they say trauma, I leave that to them. But we've all gone through something that in our brains clicked and goes, I want to turn around and help someone overcome what I've come, right? Or whatever. And, that's why I love what I do. That's why I keep going. So, but let's talk about those things.
That journey. My story, Max. Well, it's interesting. I grew up in a family that didn't know anything about therapy. Like, it was not part of my world as a child. Right? My parents are scientists, they're researchers. It's just very kind of cut and dry, black and white. And yet I found myself drawn in this other direction. And I've had my struggles. I've had my struggles with alcohol. I've had my struggles with boundaries and with people pleasing and some of the stuff that I'm still kind of dealing with and trying to navigate. But I found myself drawn into this field, and I would say it was about 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to do work in some sober houses. There was a community. Falmouth, Massachusetts is a huge recovery community. We have a number of treatment centers here, and it's a big recovery community. And so I started doing this work, this sober house-based group work with guys in a couple of different houses. And I was going in and we're sitting there and we're talking and we're learning tools and processing. And I thought this was beautiful work because a lot of sober houses don't offer that. Right? A lot of sober houses don't. Right. They say, take your drug test, show up for the house meeting, you can leave to go to work, right? Like that's what they
Right.
say. And this was an organization that said, no, like we want our guys to be working on themselves and to be healing themselves. And so I had this beautiful opportunity, and I did it for a number of years, actually, until I became a mom. And then I, transitioned into some more clinical directorship roles, and the work was exhausting. It was exhausting. You put so much of yourself into what you're doing. You're working
Mhm.
long hours. You have some successes, and you see some clients really flourish and take off. And you also see some really hard things happen. And you see clients who you've been rooting for and rooting for and rooting for, just not able to do the thing that they need to do yet. I always say
Right.
yet, because we're just a
Right.
stepping stone in a person's
Yeah.
journey. We can't see where they end up. And it can be really disheartening. And about 2015, I started my private practice. In 2018, I decided I'm doing this myself. I don't want to be in a clinic anymore. I don't want to work in that setting. I had come from a PHP program, actually, at that point.
Okay.
I said I really need to just do my own thing, focus on the clients that I love to work with. And it was really great work until the fall of 2020, when I realized I had been working at home. I had, at this point, a 1.5-year-old, goodness gracious, a 1.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. And everyone was home, and I had shut my office down. I was seeing clients at home, at night, during nap times, with kids in the other. It was so stressful, and I had such a hard time saying, no, I don't have
Right.
the capacity to take on another client. I was getting calls, and I went to my doctor that fall. I have a beautiful relationship with my primary care doctor. And I was sitting there in his office, on that table where you're sitting there swinging my
Right.
feet.
Right.
And yeah, right. And I just remember he
Yeah.
looked at me, and he asked, how are you doing? And I don't think anyone had asked me, how are you doing? Like in that way,
Right.
from someone who understood that we're not doing okay.
Right.
And it did. It gave me a real pause, and it forced me to stop. And, for those of you listening who were working in the field in 2020, 2021, when we were just kind of in the midst of it, that might resonate with you. But I was tired. I was irritable. But I wasn't sleeping well. No matter how tired I wasn't sleeping well. I was worrying about my clients. I was worrying about the world, and I was isolated because I had my family, but I didn't have my clinical community. And he said to me, we were talking about this, he said, Helen, you're burnt out. I was like, no, I'm not burnt out.
Yeah.
I'm
That's our first
fine.
answer, even though, like you said, even though someone that could spot it because they're in the same, and they say
Yeah,
you're burned out, and you go, no, I'm not. What are you talking about?
no, I'm
No, I'm not.
fine.
And they're like,
I'm
Max, I can
fine.
see it all over your face and the way you walk. Yes, you are.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm fine. And I also know, having worked enough in the addiction world, what fine actually means.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what that means, right?
So
Yeah.
it's like in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm not fine. And that was the beginning of me really realizing that something had to change, that something was missing in my work, and that I needed to try something different. So I, around about the same time, discovered somatic therapies and somatic experiencing. I don't know if you've come across anything like that.
I've heard of it, and the work I do, you see it like in the, therapist notes and stuff like that, because, a lot of the stuff they do, I can't do, but I've always been interested in what that is, but never, I never
Mhm.
pursued it because I always get my attention goes somewhere else, like you, right? Oh, I got to worry about these clients. And,
Mhm.
if, like in the addiction realm, in the sober living realm, right? Like, are they going to their meetings? Are they learning anything? I go there
Mhm.
because like this is
Yeah.
going to be such a great conversation.
Well, it opened up my world in so many different ways. So it's the somatic experiencing program is a phenomenal program for people who work with for it doesn't matter if you're a clinician, a occupational therapist, a recovery coach, a regular coach, a physician. If you're working with clients who have trauma, somatic experiencing is a very holistic and integrative way to support the clients in being in their experience and in their body, and allowing for integration and allowing for processing of trauma without catharsis, without that intense, almost re-traumatizing
Wow.
experience that some
Right.
therapies walk people through. So I I initially joined this program because I was a trauma therapist and an addiction therapist, and so many of my clients had chronic health conditions, and I thought this is going to be great. Now, I didn't realize that I was going to have to carve out 3 4-day weekends a year for 2 years, and then go away for 2 like 6-day week-long
Right.
trainings. I have little kids. I have little
Right.
kids. This was and I'm a people pleaser, and I have a hard time I had a hard time saying no. I had a hard time
Right.
handing over control. It brought up all of these things in my own experience that I hadn't taken a look at yet, that I hadn't really shined that mirror back on myself. So this is
Right.
a trait. So I went into it saying, this is going to help my clients. This is going to be amazing. We're going to see so many profound changes. And what I realized by the end of it was that I was the one that changed. I was the
Right.
one that grew, right? That I was the one. And for those of you listening who've had that experience going through a training that changed you, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It
Right.
really is an amazing experience. So I came out the other end, and I'm doing the work, and I'm still seeing burnout in clinicians. I started to grow my practice, which was just a solo practice, because I missed people. I missed being around clinicians. I needed community. And the somatic lens, the somatic work allowed me to do it in a way that was in alignment with what I needed. I was
Right.
able to listen to my body and say, oh, I need people. And I would
Right.
meet someone who's a clinician who wanted to come on board, there's just something about the intuition that started to build, and this is
Mhm.
going to work. And I, one year, got a note from a clinician who said something like, I was about to leave the field. I didn't think I loved that anymore. I so appreciate that you've created this space where clinicians can be, love their work again. I just facilitated a training this afternoon at 1:00 this afternoon. I facilitated a training called Rest and Repair, leading into the holidays for clinicians. And it was all about, how do we just slow down? How do we lean into the season of rest? How do we allow our nervous systems to take a break? How do we allow ourselves to say it's okay to take a break? And
Right.
at the end of it, one of my clinicians who is in my practice said, thank you so much. I so appreciate that this is something that you offer to us. And I'm like, yeah, because we all need to hear that I'm worth more than just the work that I do, that I can sit
Right.
and I can be okay, and I don't have to be go, 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 help, help, help all the time.
Well, you've been in the field a long time, and sometimes that's the feeling you get. That's the only reason you're there, is like almost like the parents who drop off their child or a loved one who drops off their loved one at treatment and says, hey, we'll be back in 90 days, fix them. And you're like, no, that doesn't work that way. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
But when you've gone through that so much, you don't even realize what you're doing to yourself. So
100%.
I'm
Right?
so glad we're having this conversation. And I know if you have time, I'd love to chat with you after, because I'm always looking for ways for me to improve my practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can be a better clinician and a better
Mm-hmm.
person, and I'm just a better person in general. So I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because for a while there, my family would my wife would go, Max, you're just there. And I went, what do you
Yeah.
mean? I feel good. No, you're just there. You're not
You're
happy,
just,
but you're not sad. And if things get overwhelming, I see you sneak off into the room and you go lay down. Right. And that
mm-hmm.
happened for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, just to let you know, that's when it was time for me to go, okay, I'm done with the antidepressants because they're not working anymore. Right. But I do now, been being off of them for almost 5 years. I feel better, but I know there's still some work to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
love what you're talking about, right? Because believe it or not, everybody out there who's not a clinician, we really care about the work that we do, and we will drive ourselves into the ground to make sure that and most of the people, if they're listening, or if my coworkers and some of my family were listening, like, Dad, we know,
Yeah.
we've seen what you do to yourself, because you care so much, you forget about yourself.
You do. So funny story. Oh, if hopefully this isn't TMI.
No,
I
go
have,
ahead.
I have
We
two
can be
children.
TMI on here. I don't care.
I have two children, and these are both related to my pregnancy. So my first pregnancy, I was doing group work in the sober houses, and it was very early on, and I'm sitting there with this group of guys, and I'm
Right.
like, oh gosh, I'm gonna throw up. Like, I don't feel good right now. I don't feel good right now. I'm gonna throw up. And I was like, I can't leave. Like, we got good stuff happening. I can't leave. I'm like, I gotta leave. I gotta leave. And we got close to the end. And I said, you know what, guys? I gotta leave. We're just gonna wrap up a little bit early. And I barely made it back to my car before throwing up on the side of the road. It's like, I should have just listened to my body and said, I don't
Right.
feel good. We can take a hold. You guys will be fine for another week. You guys are going to be okay.
Right.
But I need to leave. Second story, another pregnancy story, my second child. I'm in session with a client and my water breaks.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. What do you do now? What do you do now? What do you do now?
Right. You can't tell them, let's just keep going. Don't worry, you might deliver my baby, but we'll be all right.
We're going to have to wrap up just a little bit early. And the interesting thing is, just the other day, I was part of this conversation with a couple other clinicians, and we're talking about this stuff and the stories of the things that we sit through as clinicians, like our dogs having, causing a ruckus in the back while we're doing telehealth and we're pretending everything's okay, just the things that we will do to be present for our clients, that we'll just suppress our own experiences to be present for our clients. It's what we're trained to do in this field. I think we're naturally inclined to do it because we're helpers, and then that's compounded by our training, but it's not good for us.
No. I mean, and I loved, like going through school, they always say, hey, always teach you, a good counselor has a counselor, a good therapist has a therapist, right? But I think sometimes, right, if you don't find the right one that's going to call you out on your, like, I see what you're doing to yourself. You need, you know what I mean? Like, I'm watching you and you're, you know what I mean? It's like, I think it just perpetuates our over helping and not taking care of ourselves, because it's like, I mean, and it's not their fault. I mean, like you said, it's our training. We're taught to like nurture and go, you're gonna be okay, right? Well, that's why when I finally listened after, say, my last relapse, so part of my practice is like, I am not going to be the guy that goes, if someone pats you on the butt and says everything's going to be okay, right? You're good. I was taught, no, if someone does that, run the other way, because it's not true, right? And I don't want to give you false. And I've learned to, give, the hugs when they need it, but the kick in the butt when they need it. Because if I'm doing, if I'm practicing that with myself, where I'm going, oh, I'm going to be fine, right? You and I might be having this, because where'd Max go, right? You might get an email, Helen, well, he burned out. He's in the hospital now because they told him he needed rest. Yeah. But I love this conversation in so many ways, because like you said, like I work from home now too, and you can still do the same thing, right? Everybody says, well, you're at home. You can take a break anytime you want. You can do that. That does not happen, as you know.
It doesn't.
Right?
You go from one thing to the next, and then you realize it's 2:30 in the afternoon and you haven't stood up or had your lunch or had a glass of water, and another phone rings.
I usually have my big jug next to me,
Yeah. And I would say, like, for those of you guys listening, if you're listening and you recognize yourself in these stories, then pay attention. There's ways to slow things down. And I think that's my biggest message, is that it doesn't have to be I'm going on a retreat to make myself feel better. It doesn't have to be I go to yoga class every morning. Those are great things, but for a lot of us, we're just too busy and it's unrealistic. And what we need to do is we need to figure out, well, how can I carve out 30 seconds or 60 seconds in my day, and then use that 30 seconds or 60 seconds for something that is restorative, that does bring my nervous system back
Right.
into a regulated state. And that can be as simple as just, giving yourself some compassion.
Right.
Just like give yourself it sounds silly, but like give yourself a little hug or like, hold your face for a second.
Right.
It sounds it almost sounds too simple, but do for
Right.
yourself what you might do for a friend.
Absolutely, right? Because that unconscious part of your brain will recognize that and go, "Oh, this is a good thing." Like, I can
Mhm.
actually slow down a minute and go, right? Like you said, even if it's 30 seconds, a minute or 2, right? I like to incorporate some breath work into my day that
Mhm.
just calms my, because I'm so like, I wouldn't say I'm ADHD, but I'm ADD, right? And I'm OCD, and I just love to keep going. And if it's not done perfect, I'm going to keep going until I drive
Mhm.
myself absolutely crazy. But I've learned now with years of experience and talking to people like you and other people that I can slow down just for a second to bring my body back into a little
Mhm.
bit of harmony so I don't, right? I would
Mhm.
hate for a client to see me freak out, like you see on these shows where, right?
Yeah.
Where, like that one, I forget who it's with, but there's like one's the therapist and then the guy's in court, he has to go see a therapist, right? And he has to, because of his anger management, you know
Anger
what I mean?
management. Yeah.
With De Niro and I forgot who else, but
Yeah,
he
it's a
has
good
to
one.
learn
It's a
to calm
classic.
down, right? He has to learn to calm down and not freak out all the time. And,
Mhm.
and you and I know in that field, that can happen to us a lot if, excuse me, we're not taking care of ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Because things can happen where we're not recognizing when it's time to slow down. So that what leads me into the questions like, so if there is people in our audience who are fellow clinicians and helpers, I don't care what coaches,
Mhm.
whatever, how can they learn to slow down? Right. Because of course, before the end of the show, I'm going to we'll let the people know how to get a hold of you. I'm
Mhm.
going to have questions for you after the show, but
That's
if you
fine.
can give some stuff they can do like now in this moment, right? Like
Mhm.
they happen to tune into this and they're like, okay, I even got
Mm.
to stop this podcast for a minute. I'm going to go do what Helen tells me to do.
Yeah.
And so I can last, right? Because you and I know we find something that gives us purpose like this, but if we're not careful, we may burn out and not
Mhm.
last long enough. Like, cause I went through that, I want to say in like year 8 to 10, I believe, of my recovery, right? And in the field, but I worked at a place that was not conducive to the clinicians' mental health. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
weren't, it was go, go, go. You got to get this done. And I don't care if you got to stay late, you're going to get it
Yep.
done. And it was one of those places I almost go, I quit. I'm not doing it. If this is what
Mhm.
this means, then I'll just stick to my meetings and I'll help people that way. Cause
Mhm.
I can tell the sponsee to go, you know what? I'll call you back later. I
Mhm.
gotta take a break.
I think you just nailed something that is s that is so important to talk about, and it's not an easy fix. I mean, we can sit here and I can say, take a moment and look around your space, feel your feet on
Right.
the ground, and really look around your space and find something you haven't seen before that looks soothing to look at. And if you're listening, I invite you to do that because it makes a huge difference to bring yourself back to present. But that's not going to fix the systemic problem. That's not going to fix a healthcare system that
Right.
pushes unrealistic productivity numbers, that doesn't reimburse at a rate that is sustainable for,
Right.
people to live on or for practices to run. And it's it doesn't fix that stuff. What it does do, if we're doing grounding, if we're orienting ourselves, if we're, you know, a- allowing soothing and compassion into our lives, into like we can give that to ourselves, what that
Right.
does is that regulates your nervous system in a way that you can do what you did, which is to say, I can assess from a grounded, regulated state if this is working for me or not. Is this a
Right.
system that I can exist in? Is this a work environment that I can exist in? Because when we are chronically overactivated, chronically in sympathetic, activation or fight flight, we're not thinking clearly.
Right.
Our brains get foggy, our decision making is poor, and we might make a decision in the moment based on how we're feeling that we regret later. There
Right.
might be solutions. My point being, there might be solutions that are not quitting the job.
Right.
There might be other things that you can do. It might be that I quit my job, but I quit it on a timeline that works for me, so I'm not up a creek without a job,
Right.
right?
Right. Exactly. But then that'll just make it worse. Then you go, God, why did I do that to
Why
myself
did I
for?
just do that to myself? Yeah. So I can't change I can't, in this conversation, we can't change the bigger picture of the healthcare industry and,
Right.
the value that society places on the work we do, which unfortunately is not the same value that they place on the work that a cancer doctor does.
Right.
But yeah, I think that we can do micro moments of regulation and orienting and settling and breath work that allows us to be present so that we can understand what can I do in my circle of control that's going to
Right.
make this better. Yeah.
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 Because as I go through my days, and I'm sure you're aware of it, like the addiction field has changed in the last 10 years, right? Like there's
Hmm.
so much that has gone on. Like you said, we won't get deep into it, but you know what I'm talking about, like the
Hmm.
fraud and patient brokering and stuff like
Hmm.
that, where
Exactly. Yeah.
like when I joined the field, right? 16 years ago, it's like, yeah, I'm a substance use. No, that's so cool, and then now it's like, oh, you're one of them. And I go, what do you mean? Right. And then, because there's people out there are paying attention now and they're going, are you one of them? I'm like, well, no, I have nothing to do with, I'm trying to help, but I get it because, well, at least here in California and I know in Florida and stuff like that, there's so much that you've seen in the news, like I've seen, right, where that all has come to light and
Hmm.
people, you know, take advantage of someone at their
Hmm.
most vulnerable, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And then, as an helper, when you see that, right. And but they're not telling you, but you can tell like they've been going through the ringer because of something like that. You're just kind of going, you can't, sometimes it's hard not to take it on, especially like you
Hmm.
and I were parents, right?
Hmm.
And I'm a
Exactly.
grandparent, right? Like when we see our child get hurt, we're like, oh, we want to take that away so bad. Like, here, I wish I could take your pain away because I don't want to see you crying and get hurt. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Um, and it's the same in our field, right? Whether we're doing trauma therapy or substance abuse counseling,
Hmm.
there's times, like you say, you hear something and it just tugs at your heart so hard. And that's how
Just
I think,
reflexing.
tell me if I'm wrong, but that's where I get lost sometimes. It's not that I want to fix them, but I'm like, okay, you just spilled a lot of stuff out, right? You don't even really know me, but you just trusted me enough to tell me this horrible stuff that has happened to you and what you're doing to try to hide the pain, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes you just sit there and all you can do is listen. And then you're driving home or going home and you're going, man, that was heavy. Like, what do I do with this? Right.
What do I do with this? So one of the strategies, and this is one of the strategies that I do. If you're listening and you are driving home and you still have that client in your head, or you're sitting at home, it's the end of the day, or you're going for a walk, and I know they know exactly what you're talking about, Max. The clinicians out there. I mean, you say that, and I have like 10 stories pop into my head of clients I've worked with over the years. One of the things that I do is I will literally just brush it off. I will literally say, I'm that client, I'm just going to take it off. I'm gonna let it go. I might package it in a little visualized box and send it out the window, come home, actually change your clothing, actually change what you're wearing into something that's different. These seem small, like small things, but they give your nervous system an opportunity to feel like I am moving through whatever that is, and it isn't mine. So I can
Right.
push it off because it's not my story. I can be present. So funny story. I know a lot of people out there at 2 a.m. wake up with something in their head that they want to get an answer to, and they go on to ChatGPT, right? They go on to ChatGPT. And
Right.
they say, Chatty, I am really worried about this interaction and conversation I have to have with my boss. Help me. And Chatty gives them what sounds like the most perfect answer. And I'm not saying that ChatGPT is wrong. But what's really interesting is I had a clinician just earlier today email me a conversation she had with ChatGPT about her worry that AI is going to take over our jobs. Right? She's worried. She said, I'm worried that people are using AI as a therapist and it's going to take over our jobs. And the response that ChatGPT gave, I will share it with you later, and I'm not going to quote it or pull it up right now. I'm just going to summarize it. But the response was ChatGPT, like, we might, as an AI system, might be able to word things correctly and find the right language and give you the right structure, but we will never replace the ability of a therapist to hold space and be present for someone who is in pain. We will
Right.
never be able to replace that. And just that holding space, just being able to be present and sit with someone else when they're in pain and be with it, but not absorb it.
Right.
That's the beauty of the work that we do. I mean, that's like the magic sauce.
Well, I think that's what we all find and why we stay with it, because we know, right? You can have people, these scientists out there say they'll be replaced one day, but no way,
No.
right?
No.
It's like you cannot replace a person when it comes to what we do. Whether, you know what I mean? Because there's nothing, like you said, where a person can hold that space for someone, right? Because I'm telling you, technology is not always a safe place for someone to go spill their guts out, right?
Nope.
Well, because people in the addiction field, especially the ones that are like coming in off of stimulants and have been up they're like, that's the last thing I'm going to tell any machine, because it might go out into the world, and then I'm going to go to prison because everybody's going to find out what I did, you know? It's like saying someone's going to, like, AI is going to replace a sponsor. Never going to happen. You know,
no, they can't, because where they might be able to get the words right, they're just never going to get the humanness. They're never going to be able to replace.
Bingo.
And in graduate school and as a therapist, we're constantly doing continuing education, and we're learning skills and we're learning tools. And the thing that isn't said enough is that, sure, it's great to know CBT and it's great to know EMDR and it's great to know DBT. But underneath it all is your presence. That's it. I mean, that is the tool that is the bottom line for everybody when it comes to therapy or recovery coaching or it's coaching in general. It's the ability to be with someone, in relation with them, in a way that's holding and healing and non-judgmental.
Well, you nail it right on the head, as they say, right? Because my experience of having gone through therapy myself, those are the good ones, right? Those are the ones I remember. It's not the ones that always had like a suggestion, or, you know what I mean? But when you spoke and then they gave you their feedback, like that feeling you get, wow, someone heard me. Like, they're not just parroting what I said, but they actually know how I feel, right? Like, and there's only a couple of therapists in my years of doing it, right, that I remember that or like that, where I just go, that's why I keep going back. But I've also had some, you know, I'm sure you know, I've heard of people where the same thing, where it's like all about them, or they bring up stuff and you're like, wait a minute, this is my therapy session. How did this turn into your therapy session, right?
This is my time. And that's important. You don't, as a therapist, we have to have our own people that we're talking to, so that we don't bring that stuff to session, that we've cleared out the things that we need to clear out, and that we're constantly clearing out the stuff that needs to be cleared out, and shedding that doesn't belong to us, so that we can be present.
Yep. And that's why I love when they teach that in school, saying, like, it is good for you as a counselor or a therapist to have one, so that you can have that person you can unload on, right? And they can give you some constructive feedback or direction. And, because Well, it's just, you know what I mean? Like you said, luckily for us, we're in a field that, like I literally say, the client or the patient or whatever you want, the participant, they need that human touch per se, right? They need to see that person who can look at them and go, "You're going to be okay," right? Maybe they don't say that, but they feel it, and
Yeah, it comes from the
like
heart.
right in their heart, and because as you know, because you've been a therapist, right? The things you've heard and help people get through when it comes to their trauma, right? Is it's sad, right? It's
Infuriating.
heartbreaking,
It's
and it's
also infuriating. Yeah, it's like,
absolutely like
why does the world have to be this way?
right. You feel I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you felt your anger like in a session going, whoa, like you're like,
Right up.
and you're trying not to show that to them because you don't want them to think you're getting mad at them, but you're like, if I could find those people that did that to you, I would help you in a heartbeat, kick the living shit out of them.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, everybody. But that's how, how it is. And I'm so glad, like I said, I'm so glad you're here to talk about that. So let's talk about, so we kind of know you've went through your own challenges. What made you decide to do like a group thing for therapists? Like, what was that moment for you when you said, I know you have your individual moments, but were you with a bunch of clinicians when you said, I got to do something for all of us?
It developed actually out of some of my clinical work with a client, with a client who had been really negatively impacted by a previous therapist. And their previous therapist, from everything that I gathered, had really burnt out and had really poor boundaries as a result of the burnout. And the fallout for the person that I was working with was so significant that it stuck in my head. This isn't okay.
Right.
It's not an ethical way to practice as a clinician.
Right.
And so I think that was the seed. I had my own experience and I came back and realized these are the things that I need. My nervous system needs to have capacity.
Right.
My nervous system needs to have people around me that are doing this work that I can talk to and feel like I'm part of a community. My nervous system needs to have variety, right? It can't just be seeing client after client after client of the same type of client. I need to work with people who have different things going on. I need to spend time providing supervision to other clinicians. I need variety.
Right.
And so I understood that I had done this, but that was the seed that said, I need to do this for other people. It can't just be for me. It's got to be something bigger. And that's been growing for a while. I run monthly trainings, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I run online virtual trainings that people can get CEUs for through the Somatic Integration Institute. And the trainings they all have a somatic lens. And so we might be talking about rest, we might be talking about boundaries, we might be talking about dissociation. It's different every month. In fact, next month we're talking about we're talking about audit-proof documentation, but I'm a somatic therapist, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
I hope you have some time after the show because I'm going through some things this is going to be great even after the show. I hope you have a little time because I do.
I can hang out for a little while.
I do want to ask you stuff, but I think, that's kind of, I wish they had this everywhere, right? Because clinicians need each other.
Mm-hmm.
They all can understand because like you just said, audit, right? Woo, we all been through audits, right? And some are just like, you're going, those audits will make you go, why did I choose this field?
Why did I choose this field? Paperwork
right?
Paperwork is the nemesis to everybody in this field. It's our least favorite part of our job.
Right. But it's one of the most important because if we don't document, what do they say? If it's not documented,
it didn't happen.
And people don't realize sometimes I'm telling when they're documenting, right? Because I'm like behind the scenes now. So I'm not so much counseling, but I'm helping the case managers in the facility, get the days for the clients, right? So I get to see the charts and what's going on. And I'm like, well, you need to change this a little bit and you need to do this a little bit and whatever. But, that creates my own OCD because and it's like, if I don't see it getting done, it's like, Oh yeah. Then I'm like, who can I call and start
Mhm.
bugging and going, you need to change this. But we've
Mhm.
done that. And yeah, there's so many things
Yeah.
because, when we go through this stuff, we take, like, it goes back to how much we take on, like that we
Mhm.
think, in our brains, we think we have to take on because we're a helper and we're going to fix this for everybody. And
Mhm.
right. So talk
And
about how you teach people to just go, no, you don't need to do all that.
yeah, no,
Like,
you don't need
just
to do all that. I
right.
would say, well, so the trainings that I run are very, very helpful. Like I said
Okay.
earlier today, I had a training on rest and repair. It's called Rest and Repair, and it was about reconnecting and recharging and rejuvenating. And it did have CEUs attached to it, but we spent 2 hours basically talking about we're important. Our needs are important. How do we listen to our body? How do we listen to our
Mhm.
capacity? And actually providing some of that rest, which is so hard. We're in an industry where we are trained to deprioritize ourselves and prioritize our clients, that our struggles and our pain is not that it's less than, but that our client's struggle and our client's pain makes ours not important, and so we
Oh, they
shuffle it off
minimize it.
yeah,
Yeah, they
minimize it. So we
minimize it.
shuffle it off aside and we say, "Well, that's not important, their stuff." And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I mean, our clients, that's we're there for our clients,
Right.
but that
Right.
doesn't negate that we're human beings. That doesn't
Exactly.
negate that we're human beings. So we
Right.
have to be paying attention to how is the story affecting me? How is the structure of my day affecting me? Have I scheduled 8 clients back to back, or have I given myself a break? Have I brought lunch and had enough water? Um,
Right.
so so all of those things contribute to a pattern. Oh, and then on top of that, we live in a society that says productivity. Everything is about the numbers. If you're not productive, you're lazy. I mean, that is right. Like if you're listening to this and you say, "Yeah, if I just sit and kick my heels up and read a book, I'm being lazy."
Right. Well, you're so correct, right? Whether it's a hospital or a addiction facility, right? It's driven by outcomes. So, like, how
Hmm.
can we produce better outcomes
Hmm.
so that we look like we're doing such a great job,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which turns the uppers sometimes. I like to call them the uppers, just like I always say about our politics. The powers that be that direct
Hmm.
everything, right? Sometimes don't care about that human side. It's all numbers to them.
It's all
And they
numbers. Yeah.
forget that there's clinicians and BHTs or, support staff that are boots on the ground that see this day in and day out, and you're not taking into consideration what they're going through
Hmm.
away from work, right? Who knows what's going on at home or,
Hmm.
and because I always believe like if I can be the ear, right? Since I'm not counseling as much anymore, I tell my case managers, like, you can call me anytime if you just need a vent. I'll be an ear because I get it. Because sometimes we just need at the end of the day to go,
Hmm.
hey, Max, boom. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? This is what happened. I just need to get it off my chest, right? Because I found when I let him do that, I'll get a call like a week or two later and go, thanks for doing that. It made me feel so much better because I didn't have to hold it in because I don't have
Exactly.
anybody to go talk to about this.
Exactly. You just nailed it. You just and
Right.
that's where the supervision and the therapy and the case consultation comes in. It's so important. It's being able to find a way to get it out and to process it.
Right.
We're humans. We have to integrate and make sense of our experiences, and it's very hard to do that in isolation. And a lot of us go home at the end of the day and we don't. I mean, some of us have partners who are in the field, but a lot of us don't. And so
Right.
it's hard to have these conversations. Number one, you can't talk about your clients anyway. But number two, it's like, it's a different world.
Right.
It's a different world. And it's a lot of people don't understand it.
Right. Thank God my wife kind of works like she's not a clinician, but she deals with behaviors and helping modify behaviors. So she deals with like the worst of the worst where she's
Mhm.
at sometimes. And she does great work because I see it. We go into town and there'll be a former student that goes, hey, Miss Lisa, like, I love you so much. You help me so much. Your wife is the greatest, right?
Mhm.
But and I know, like sometimes I see her come home and she goes, I don't even want to talk about work today.
Mhm.
Like, don't even get me started.
Mhm.
I have the wherewithal to go, whatever you want
Mhm.
to do, honey.
Yeah.
You need a Starbucks, I'll go get you a
Well,
Starbucks.
and I think that brings up a really key point here is how do you transition your day? How do you start your day? How do you transition to coming back home? How do you spend
Right,
that time? It doesn't take a lot of time to sit in the car and breathe
right,
or roll the window down and look out the window and let your ears just take in, the bird song or
right.
whatever it is that's in your area. It doesn't take long for our nervous system to respond to that. You're in California, so you can
Right.
take your shoes off and go stand in the ground, which does I can't do that because it's too cold outside right now.
Right.
But you can do
Right.
that. You can do
I
that.
tried
But
that, Max, but now I got frostbite. Thank you very much.
frostbite on my toes. I don't recommend it if it's 20 degrees.
Right,
So there's small ways that we can weave in restorative, restful practices into our day that
right.
give us more capacity in the
Absolutely.
long run. That shed a little bit of what it is that we're carrying, so it doesn't just continue to accumulate until
Right,
we're full and we don't have any more space to put
right.
anything.
Right. Well, and that's what I've learned, not only for my recovery, but as a clinician, is to have practices that I do throughout the day, like that I make time for, like you said, even if it's for a minute. And I got this short little breath work that a former guest taught me that so good about just bringing my levels down to,
Mhm.
okay, I can breathe
Yeah.
again. Now I can go back to work and be okay. But I love this conversation too, because for you recovering people out there that are listening in, now you know what us clinicians go through and how much we love you
We
and are
do. We
willing
love
to
you.
go through to help you. So when we're pushing you a little bit, just remember, it's not because we dislike you, it's because we love you and we want to see you get better.
And we see the potential. I think that that's the other thing
Absolutely.
is that there's something about being able to see sort of the other side of
Right.
what this person's life could be like. And, you know, I very much believe that we end up where we think we're going,
Right.
regardless of where it is that we think we're going. And I have found myself over the years sort of holding a vision for some of my clients until they can take that vision and hold it themselves. I see a path for
Right.
you, and at some point they can see the path too. That's a
Right.
beautiful transition. That's a beautiful thing to hand over when you see it starting to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's why we do what we do, because we
that's why
do
we do what
see
we do.
that path, right?
Hmm.
And even though we know, like sometimes we'll catch ourselves, oh, here I go back to old behaviors. I shouldn't do it, but I see this path, so I'm going to stick with it
Hmm.
so that maybe they will see it and go, oh, I know what she's trying to help me with. So
Hmm.
I'm going to run with it. Right. But
Yeah.
like you and I know, I mean, sometimes the best thing that you and I can do is just plant that seed and
Hmm.
water it a little bit. They may not
Hmm.
get it at that, even if they're with us for a long time, but when they leave, one day you're going to get that call or that text and go, remember when you did this for me?
Hmm.
Look what's happened now. I'm a year sober, whatever, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Or I'm doing good. I'm going back to
Oh
school.
yeah.
You helped me so much. And that's why
Yeah.
we keep doing it. Right. And I love that vision that you talk. I think that's what has kept me in the game for so long, is because someone saw that vision for me. It might have not have been a therapist, but like I say, my sponsor,
Could be anybody.
who's been my sponsor for 22 years, and he kind of planted that seed. This is how you're going to help someone. You're going to see where they can go and you're going to try to help them get there, but don't tell them how to
Exactly.
get there. Just be their guide and show
Hmm.
them that they can do it. And
Yeah. And don't carry them. Don't carry them there. Let them
no,
walk their own. Let them walk their own walk.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you like we joked about before the podcast, right? I'm going to ask you the questions that I love, that I do remember. We're going to start with Fearless, Helen. So going through what you've gone through in your life, right? And in your career as a therapist, what does fearless mean to you today? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Fearless means doing it anyway. Yeah. It means that I acknowledge that there's fear there and I am willing to feel it and I am willing to move in the direction that's the right direction, even though I'm scared.
Love it. You
Yeah.
heard that, everybody. See, it's a pretty common theme. Even if it's said different ways, she nailed it. That's it. It doesn't mean we're not going to be afraid, right? And like you've heard me say and other guests, everybody, it's learning how to fear less. And even if you're scared, just doing it.
Just do
And
it anyway. Yeah,
right,
just do it anyway. There's such, and that's what bravery is, really, right? It's not that you're not afraid; it's that you're doing it anyway.
right, exactly. That's how we build courage, right? Is doing the things that scare us, and we do it anyway. I love it. I love it. So that leads me into happiness. As you can see, I put a Y in happiness. Knowing I put the Y in happiness, what does happiness mean to you? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Boy, I actually struggle a little bit with happiness because I feel it's necessary to experience the opposite of happiness in order to experience happiness. Happiness exists because there's a comparable opposite, right? And when we strive towards happiness, sometimes we experience disappointment because we don't get there, right? So
Right.
I actually love this idea, and I think that this actually is what happiness is for me. It's contentment. It's being okay with where I am now in this moment, wherever that is. That if I can be content in this moment, then ultimately things are going to feel okay. Even when they
Yep.
don't feel okay, they're going to feel okay.
Right. Exactly. It's like someone put it to me, right? It's like gratitude it's not being happy with what you don't have, but being happy with exactly what you have right at this moment,
Right
right?
in this moment. Yep.
Right? Because you keep
Exactly.
doing that, then, I believe happiness is fleeting, right? Because I could have this greatest conversation with Helen here today, and then I walk out the door, stub my toe, and boom, happiness just left the door, right? But
I was just
joy,
thinking he's going to say stub his toe.
right? Because I've done that so many times where I'm rushing out the door because I hear the dogs like fighting with each other, and I got puppies, so I go run. Then I'm angry at them, right? And they're looking at me like, what do we do? But a reason I put the Y, and I think you said it, right? It's that contentment. And what happens is if you put those little moments of happiness together, what happens is you feel joy, and joy is lasting to me. And as a parent, I know as a parent, as a grandparent, like I can say that my granddaughters and grandkids, all of them, my grands, right, bring me joy.
They
right?
do. Even when
Sorry,
you're
kids, if you're
infuriated.
listening, you bring me happiness, but sometimes you do not bring me joy. And that is just as your dad, but I love you very much. So if you're listening anyway, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
So I appreciate that. And this has been such an amazing time. And I knew it would be. And I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation. But if someone or in the audience, whether maybe they're, going through their own challenges, or we have some fellow clinicians out there and going, oh my God, Max finally brought someone on that we need to reach out to. How do they get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me? So my organization is Somatic Integration Institute, and the email would be info@somaticintegrationinstitute.org. I'll provide that to you so you can leave that. I am also on Instagram at Somatic Informed Therapies, where we put a lot of valuable information and insights and thoughts, and a lot of my thoughts that come out of my head and need to be shared. And for those of you listening, for those of you who are listening today, I wanted to offer something special, Max, because you give so much to your guests. You have so much value here. So if you're listening, I have an offer for you. And if you go to flourishingpractice.org/ my brain just stopped working.
Yeah, I'm not alone. It happens to me all the time. I'll be right in the middle going, yeah, I'm going to get it, and go, don't worry, Ellen. I do it all the time. I'm like, oh my God.
Fearless Happiness. Flourishingpractice.org/ fearless happiness with a Y. You will get access to a bundled package of some of my offers, including a burnout assessment, strategies for getting time back in your week, and a series of videos where I talk about rest and I talk about boundaries, and I give you lots of tips and tricks and ideas for that. So that's a special offer. Flourishingpractice.org/ youtube.com/fearless happiness with a Y, just for listeners today.
I love it. I love it. All my fellow clinicians who especially who I work with, I've given my links to. I hope you listen to this when this comes out, because matter of fact, I will be posting about that so that you can listen to this, because it's very important what Helen has taught us today. And especially if we want to thrive in this business, we got to take care of ourselves, and we got to keep ourselves in check, because it's like a parent with their child. You never know who's watching, but we know who's watching. And it's like the kids, it's our clients. And if they'll see right through us if we're not taking care of ourselves. And, I've had that. I've been called out on that so many times when I'm not taking care of myself. Like, you're telling us to do this, but have you seen yourself lately? And you go, oh man. But like I said, this has been an amazing time. You have brought so much value to the podcast today. Thank you so much, Helen. But you're not quite off the hook just yet.
Not yet.
Right? Because I get to ask you my favorite question that I ask of all my guests, and it goes like this. So, Helen, what is the one piece of advice you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
Ooh, help them grow as human beings and become better people. My advice is to allow yourself the time to listen to what your body's telling you. Just listen to what your body's telling you. It's got so much wisdom. It's got so much knowledge. It knows what's happening before your brain knows what's happening, and it's telling you. So slow down, take a moment, pause, and just notice what's there and what does that have to tell me. And I think that in and of itself, that is like, as the beginning, that is the foundation of everything that I do with people. It's learning how to listen to yourself.
And I think that's very important, right? Because like they say, and you understand this, right? We're our own worst critic, but we can be our own best ally if we're paying attention. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an amazing time. Thank you so much, for the wisdom you imparted on us and the value you brought. I mean, my heart is full today. This is such, as they say, this was so on time at this point right now. I love it. But you heard her. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it is needed. I don't know when this is going to air, but man, it's a busy week right before Christmas.
Right. Well, I'll probably put you ahead of some people because this needs to be out there. Right. I love it. We had a great conversation.
Thank you.
You heard her, everybody. If Helen taught you something, if she made you think, if Helen made you smile, and my famous, if Helen made you go, I like that. Please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast. And again, join me over on the YouTube channel. So my new YouTube channel, so you can see and hear Helen and us having this great conversation. Go like and subscribe so we can get this out there to as many people as possible. Again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiest Podcast. Until next time.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.